The righteous Jews from all 12 tribes and all nations on earth were returned from Babylonian captivity and settled in the land of Israel 2,500 years ago. This was prophesied by Isaiah, Micah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Zechariah, and came to pass when the righteous returned to their land, beginning in about 520 BC. Those who rebelled against God would be released from captivity but would not return. In 538 BC, Cyrus was the king of the Persian Empire, which at that time was all the kingdoms of earth. He decreed that God's people anywhere could go to Jerusalem and build his temple. What was all the kingdoms of earth at that time, 538 BC? 200 years earlier, Assyria had invaded the land of Israel several times, taking captives. The northern 10 tribes of Israel were taken captive to Assyria. 135 years later, in 587 BC, Nebuchadnezzar invaded Jerusalem and began taking captives to Babylonia. Those would be the southern tribes. 28 years later, in 559 BC, Cyrus II became king of Persia, and in 538 he conquered Babylonia. Now he possessed the old Assyrian Empire and the old Babylonian Empire, which at that time was all the kingdoms of the earth. Both the 10 northern tribes and the 2 southern tribes were held captive in his kingdom of Persia.
Here are some quotes from Ezekiel, Ezra, and 2 Chronicles about the return from captivity. Ezekiel, the sovereign Lord says, I will purge you of those who revolt and rebel against me. Although I will bring them out of the land where they are living, yet they will not enter the land of Israel. Then you will know I am the Lord. So the sovereign Lord said that not all would return to the land of Israel. Those who revolt and rebel against him would not return to the land of Israel. Ezra, this is what Cyrus, king of Persia, says. The Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has appointed me to build a temple for him at Jerusalem in Judah. So when Cyrus was king of Persia, he was king of all the kingdoms of the earth. And 2 Chronicles, this is what Cyrus, king of Persia, says. The Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has appointed me to build a temple for him at Jerusalem in Judah. Any of his people among you may go up, and may the Lord their God be with them. So Cyrus at that time was king of all the kingdoms of the earth, when he decreed any of God's people could go up.
Those who returned from Babylonian and Assyrian captivity settled in the land of Israel beginning 2,500 years ago. The righteous Jews from all 12 tribes lived together at that time in the land of Israel. 500 years later, in the time of Christ, the people of the New Testament still called it the land of Israel. They called it the land of Israel and said that the land had borders. You will see in the following references in the land that the land of Israel, with borders, beginning in 450 BC by Malachi. The last reference to the land of Israel with borders is in the time of Christ.
Malachi, you will see it with your own eyes and say, Great is the Lord, even beyond the borders of Israel. Maccabees, they forcibly circumcised all the uncircumcised boys they found within the borders of Israel. Maccabees, he, Simon, extended the borders of his nation and gained full control of the country. Matthew, get up, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who were trying to take the child's life are dead. So he got up, took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. Matthew, when Jesus heard this, he was amazed and said to those following him, Truly I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. Matthew, and when the demon was driven out, the man who had been mute spoke. The crowd was amazed and said, Nothing like this has ever been seen in Israel. Matthew, When you are persecuted in one place, flee to another. Truly, I tell you, you will not finish going through the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes.
The land of Israel after the captives returned from Babylonian captivity 2,500 years ago very much fits the earlier prophecies 2,700 years ago and 2,600 years ago. This time of peace and prosperity lasted nearly 300 years. It was supposed to last forever. During this time, the righteous Jews from all 12 tribes maintained their covenant with God in the land of Israel, and God was exalted above all. But it did come to an end. According to the Dead Sea Scrolls, 4Q390, Fragment 1, 7 Jubilees, and a Jubilee is 49 years, after the desolation of the land, they would forget the law and the covenant and do what is evil in the Lord's eyes. Then the Lord would turn his face on them and give them to the hands of their enemies. 7 Jubilees after 586 BC is 243 BC. So this time of peace and prosperity, when they kept their covenants and exalted God above all in the land of Israel, lasted from about 528 BC to 243 BC, nearly 300 years, a very long time. It seems that the pre-captivity prophecies about the 12 tribes returning to their land, the land of Israel, came to pass after the righteous Jews from 12 tribes returned from captivity beginning 2,500 years ago. For more information, check out my book, Prophecy Paradox, The Case for First Century End Time, and you can find it at Amazon in the link below.